What's up, college football fans, and welcome to another week of TJ's College Football M-Vlog. Usually at the beginning of the M-Vlog, I'd give a little contender and pretender thing, but I think given the events of the last week and what's been going on at Penn State, I think we need to talk a little bit about that. If you've been living under a rock and you haven't heard anything about what's going on, former assistant coach Jerry Sandusky, who was a defensive coordinator during one of Penn State's national championships in the 90s, was accused of sexually abusing several young boys who had come to a football camp there. Several other people have come forward about Coach Sandusky and what he was doing. And it kind of fell back on the Penn State administration. The president of the university is left. Several other higher members of the administration were dismissed. And finally, Penn State's legendary coach, Joe Paterno, was dismissed, fired from the team after 61 years. Yes, 61 years of coaching at Penn State. Now, there's been a variety of responses to this. Many have expressed that they are glad Paterno got fired. Basically, his firing came over his handling of the situation. In 2002, he was made aware, at least in part, of the situation. And while he did report it to members of the administration, he did not report it to anyone who did anything about the situation. And so there was a lot of anger about what Joe Paterno could have done that he did not do. I'm struck with a verse that comes into Proverbs 22, and it goes throughout the book of Proverbs, and it says that a good name is more desirable than great riches. To be esteemed is better than silver or gold. I have to stress to you, if you don't know much about college football, there are few names more revered than Joe Paterno's. Coached at Penn State for over 61 years now, won multiple national championships, was the head coach for 46 years there. 46 years. That's almost twice my life. And there are just few people who hold the place that Joe Paterno has had, and within a matter of days, that's all been completely undone, and just has had to leave his job in disgrace, and this will permanently taint his reputation. And I say all this really is a message for especially some of the younger folks who read this, folks from Sea Salt and everything. It takes a long time to build up a good reputation. It takes a long time to earn a good name, just as it took Joe Paterno all the years that it took him. And it can be undone very quickly. So I guess my encouragement is just, in everything you do it with some diligence, and be very aware of the impact just the smallest things that you do can have, either for good or for bad. Sometimes the littlest things can make the biggest difference, as they did for Coach Paterno, and it's very unfortunate to see everything that's happened at Penn State, and of course that these horrible things were done on the campus of Penn State. It's just this very sad situation, and it's another black eye that college football did not need. And that kind of takes us into our games of the week, because one of the games of the week I've had kind of on the radar for a while has been number 19 Nebraska at number 12 Penn State. And this game just takes on all kinds of more meaning now in light of this entire uproar. Penn State, surprisingly, is leading the Big Ten, has the best record. However, I don't see how a team recovers from something. Nothing like this has ever happened to a team in the middle of the season in college football history. And I just really don't see how Penn State really gets their mind focused for their last home game against a very good Nebraska team. And so I'm going to pick, in what was probably maybe a week or so ago an upset, I will pick number 19 Nebraska coming into Happy Valley and beating the Nittany Lions. Now let's move out to the West Coast for our number 2 game of the week. Number 6 Oregon at number 3 Stanford. Basically a game to decide the winner of the Pac-12. I like both teams for doing very different things. I like Oregon's run attack, and I like Stanford's pass attack led by Andrew Luck. I like the Cardinal in this one. I like it at home, and I like Andrew Luck winning a big one in his probably his final year of college football. I look for number 3 Stanford to win probably a high offense kind of game with the Oregon Ducks. And finally, we're going to look at TCU. At number 5, Boise State. On paper, this one probably looks like another easy win for the Broncos, but you got to remember that TCU has been maybe one of the best programs in the country the last few years, and they've also had a history of beating Boise State. I think this is going to be a tough one for the Blue Broncos, but I like Kellen Moore. I like everything that offense can do, and I like Boise State to pull this one out and continue their track towards a BCS nomination, maybe even a spot in the national championship if some crazy things can happen for the Broncos. Now let's look at our hometown heroes. We're going to start at South Carolina. Coming off a tough loss to Arkansas, one that I think many of us saw coming, at least I did anyway. But number 15 South Carolina will take on Florida this week. Very high-stakes game for the Gamecocks. Now, the Gamecocks get to go home for the rest of the year. They will play a 3-game homestand to close out their season. Florida is coming off a very just rough season for the Gators, and Florida just can't run the ball. And that's really where their problems start. A lot of speed, but just an offensive line that can't quite create the holes. And if you can't run in the SEC, you're not going to find a lot of success. And so I expect South Carolina to continue trying to establish its identity on offense with losing both Steven Garcia and Marcus Lattimore. But I look for South Carolina to put some points on the board. I look for them to hold Florida off the scoreboard. And I look for them to win this game and put them in position to maybe a repeat win of the SEC East. Now let's look over to Clemson versus Wake Forest. I really like Clemson in this one. I know Wake Forest has pulled off some pretty tough wins, especially against Florida State earlier this season. But I like Clemson coming off of a bye and a tough loss before that. I like Clemson getting mad, getting their offense back on track, and putting another win up against the Demon Deacons. And finally, the number 17 Furman Paladins taking on the Elon Phoenix this week, coming off not one, but 2 wins against top 5 teams in the FCS, against Wofford and against the Appalachian State Mountaineers last week. Now, I need to understand the stakes of this game. Furman is sitting at a 6-3 record. If they can get to 7-3, they will finish their season playing in Gainesville with the Florida Gators, and I think most realistic people will probably expect a loss for the Paladins in that game, a little outmatched athletically. If Furman can get a win against Elon at home in Greenville, many experts believe that Furman is a lock for the playoffs, and I have to agree with them, and I think nobody knows that more than the Furman Paladins themselves, and so I expect Furman, coming off these 2 big wins, to come in extra motivated to beat Elon, who's having a rough season as it is. I like Furman winning this one very comfortably and finding a spot in this year's playoffs in the first year of Coach Bruce Fowler's tenure. Well, that's all I have this week. I hope everyone's doing well. I want to wish everyone a happy Veterans Day. If you know someone who has served in our armed services, tell them thank you for what they do. God bless.